The Apache girl, whose name was Nayeli, felt the rough rope bite into her wrists as the sun beat down mercilessly over the dusty town square. She could hear the murmurs of the small, cruel crowd that had gathered, their eyes heavy with judgment and accusation. Every footstep of the approaching sheriff echoed like thunder in her chest. She had never imagined that betrayal could taste so bitter, that the very people she once considered neighbors could become executioners in a heartbeat. Nayeli's mind raced as she recalled the moments that led to this nightmare. She had been framed for a theft she didn't commit, a silver locket, stolen from the richest landowner in the county, an item that had belonged to a woman who despised her because of her heritage and youth. Nayeli had tried to explain, had pleaded her innocence, had even cried out to the heavens, but no one had listened. In the Wild West, survival often depended not on truth, but on fear and power, and the townspeople feared what they didn't understand. Just as the sheriff tightened the noose, Nayeli's heart leapt with desperation. She remembered her mother's last words, whispered to her in the quiet of their small tent on the outskirts of the canyon. "Strength, my daughter. No chain or rope can bind the spirit of the free." Those words were a fragile shield against the cruelty surrounding her, a flicker of hope she clung to with every trembling breath. But hope alone could not save her. She needed a miracle. That miracle came in the form of a lone rider who thundered into the square, the hooves of his horse kicking up clouds of dust that blinded the angry mob for a moment. He was a tall, broad-shouldered rancher named Caleb, known across the territory for his courage and an unshakable sense of justice. His eyes burned with anger as he saw the noose around Nayeli's neck. Without hesitation he shouted, "Stop! She's innocent." The words were sharp, cutting through the chaos like a rifle shot. The sheriff hesitated, the rope trembling in his hands. But the crowd erupted in murmurs of dissent. Who was this stranger to defy the law? Caleb did not answer their questions. He simply rode forward, his presence commanding and undeniable. With a single motion he dismounted and yanked Nayeli away from the gallows, his strong hands freeing her from the rope. Nayeli gasped, her heart hammering in her chest, tears streaming down her dust-covered face. The mob, unsure of what to do, began to back away slowly. Caleb stood between them and her, his figure a shield against the prejudice and cruelty that had nearly ended her life. Nayeli could barely speak, her voice broken and choked with emotion. Why are you helping me?" she whispered, barely audible over the noise of the crowd. Caleb looked down at her, his eyes softening, though the tension in his posture did not waver. "Because I know the truth," he said firmly, "and because no one has the right to take your life for lies." He turned to the sheriff, who now appeared uncertain, and added, "If any harm comes to her while I am here, you will answer to me." The words, simple but powerful, shifted the energy in the square. Nayeli's knees trembled, and she realized that this stranger, this rancher, had just become her protector, her lifeline in a world that had sought to destroy her. Caleb quickly guided Nayeli out of the town, the angry shouts of the mob fading behind them as they rode into the open plains. The wind whipped through her hair, carrying with it the scent of sagebrush and freedom. For the first time in days, Nayeli felt something she hadn't felt in a long time: safety. Caleb rode silently beside her, his eyes scanning the horizon for any signs of pursuit. When she finally dared to speak again, her voice was a trembling whisper. "Thank you. I don't know how I can repay you." Caleb gave her a small, reassuring smile, his voice calm but resolute. "You don't owe me anything. You've survived what most would not, and that alone is enough." As night fell, they made camp near a quiet stream, the stars above a tapestry of hope and possibility. Nayeli felt a flicker of something she hadn't dared to feel in years: trust. For the first time, she allowed herself to imagine a life beyond fear, beyond the lies that had nearly killed her. Caleb tended to the fire while she watched the flames dance, her thoughts a whirl of gratitude, relief, and cautious curiosity. She had been saved from death, but the journey ahead was far from over. The people who had framed her were still out there, and the land itself was full of dangers that could claim her life at any moment. Yet in Caleb she had found not just a savior, but an ally, someone who would stand against the darkness for her. As the fire crackled, Caleb finally spoke, breaking the heavy silence. "Tomorrow we move further from town. We'll find a place where you can hide, where no one can touch you until we figure out who did this and why." Nayeli nodded, her heart swelling with a mix of fear and hope. She knew the road ahead would be perilous, but for the first time since she had been falsely accused, she believed that justice might be possible. And as she glanced at Caleb, his silhouette outlined against the glowing firelight, she realized that she had been given more than life itself. She had been given a chance to reclaim her dignity, her freedom, and perhaps even her future. Nayeli leaned back, exhausted but alive, and whispered to herself a quiet vow. She would survive. She would uncover the truth, and she would never forget the man who had risked everything to save her from a rope that had promised only death. The Wild West was ruthless, unforgiving, and often cruel, but tonight, under the vast star-filled sky, hope had returned, and with it, the first spark of a story that would change everything.